Okay. Hey everybody, it's Give the Nutritionist here, and today's going to be a smaller video. As I've talked about, I've already made every guide I've ever wanted to make, so now I'm making little small companion guides in reference to my bigger guides. One issue I've seen in practice, right, and I've heard from other people, especially people that are getting older, they have issues with their gallbladder, they maybe don't do a lot of fiber, they may be exposed to a bunch of toxins and don't even know it. I'm talking about people that they've gone to the doctor for everything and they're not getting better. So I'm talking about people that they feel amazing when they're doing fasting. I'm talking about not just intermittent fasting, right? I'm talking about people that feel the need to do fasting that's 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, alternate day fasting. And this is because these people, they only feel their best when they're fasting. And that's an issue. And it gets to the point where they don't want to eat food anymore. But you need to eat, right? If you don't eat right, you're not getting the proteins you need to build your body. You're not getting the fatty acids you need for your cells. You're not getting other nutrients you need, like minerals, like vitamins. And people hit an impasse, right, where you only feel better if you don't eat. But to catch 22, because if you do eat, you feel bad. And I've talked to these people, and they've eaten everything. They eat healthy, well, healthy, right? They, you know, tried all sorts of diets, from vegan, vegetarian, raw stuff, to vegan, to paleo, to carnivore, to keto, and everything in between, right? Because, like I've talked about, there isn't really a perfect diet, because almost every diet you do, there's something toxic in that diet. I don't care if it's Mediterranean, I don't care if it's carnivore, I don't care, whatever it is, right? There's always something about every diet that's detrimental, in which it'll eventually become a yo-yo diet into a fad diet. FAD. So I want to give people a way forward that despite everything you've tried, despite every expert you've been to, you know, I've had people go to like every top doctor, every specialist I've been referred to, every, you know, person that is marketing on Instagram and Facebook, right? You know those people, right? Yeah, they take their money and they don't get any better. So what I'm trying to do, right, is I'm trying to give people an avenue in their health, a new marker to go to, where they can finally get better. And I've noticed these people have similar issues and symptoms to people I help that, you know, they've been damaged by Accutane, they've been damaged through heavy metals, they've been damaged through Lyme, they've been damaged through mold, right? And it's no different. It's just that with these people, right, they're a canary in a coal mine. But in this scenario, they're having problems for a different reason, different issue, whatever have you, right? But point being is we're going to help you get forward if you're this kind of person. Whether you're young and you can't eat anything because it triggers autoimmunity and your stomach hurts, whether you're an older senile person, right? No offense, right? But you're older and you just only do oatmeal, right? That's not nutritious. Oatmeal isn't a good meal. And, you know, oatmeal, in my opinion, it's got nickel, it'll make things worse, and, you know, it just kind of spirals down from there, right? But point being, right, is people need to eat every day, right? And I'll walk you through why this happens, what are reasons for it, and then I will then refer you to my other video and article about how to do a proper detox. Because as I've talked about in that article, people do detoxes and they're little bullshit detoxes. They don't do anything. Your body is detoxing every single day of your life that you're living. Phase 1, Phase 2 liver detox can help you with Phase 3, and so on. But let me begin with this article. I could talk at length, and this should be short. So, fasting is popular because people feel better when they're not eating. And when they skip meals, you eat less food, you go a long period of time without eating. You know, you have less bloating, you don't look as fat, you digestion works a bit better, you have a lot more energy, you're alert, and sometimes if you have autoimmunity, the symptoms go down a lot, so you feel amazing. But what if feeling better while eating less isn't always a sign of better health? For people who find it necessary to fast often, it's a warning sign that your digestive system, like your liver, your gallbladder, and your elimination pathways are struggling to keep up with demands of processing and detoxing food. That means there's also going to be an issue with drugs, over-the-counter stuff, illicit alcohol, all those things, because you gotta make sure your liver is working tip top. Every time you eat, your body has to digest food, you gotta absorb nutrients, process metabolic waste, and eliminate substances through the liver, bile, kidneys, lungs, and intestines. This requires energy, nutrients, and proper digestive function to get going. What I am worried about are people, that are doing excessive fasting, that they're undernourished, they're becoming constipated because you gotta poop to detox, and they're nutrient deficient as a result of the standard American diet. One big issue I have, right, is there's a pervasive myth going around in which people believe that you could eat anything, whatever you want, all the pizza in the world, all the pasta, whatever have you, right? And that's fine. You can eat as much as you want, cake, you name it, right? Coke. But if you're fasting, somehow, it's magical, and like all the damage those processed foods will do to you, it's going to suddenly not damage you anymore, which is totally wrong. It's erroneous. People go crazy with that idea. They eat whatever they want. And sure, you're able to manage some weight, but that's going to build up toxicity in your system, depending on what you're doing exactly, because everyone's different. And one of the point I want to make is these foods aren't very nutrient rich. They're going to give you the vitamins and minerals you need for proper liver phase 1, phase 2 detox. So when you're undereating or overeating in the standard American food, you're going to eventually hit a bottleneck in the way your body will process and metabolize byproducts. So this is why some people eat larger meals can sometimes feel a bit sluggish, bloated, and uncomfortable. People mistaking this as proof that they should eat less food, which I do not agree with. However, doing more fasting will not further increase your health benefits, but will cause more harm. I argue the body is so toxic that they cannot properly run phase 1, phase 2 detox. I'm going to explain why people need to eat non-toxic food, right? Like, you got to fix up your diet first before you get better. And even then, I've had people come to me with what they believe to be the cleanest, healthiest diet ever, and it was full of superfoods causing, damage, and full of things I usually do not agree with. That for my clients, I tell them to not do or eat or take because it could be detrimental in the long run. I don't really care about you getting better in the short term. I care about if you get better and can maintain it 5, 10, 20 years from now. The whole point is the long term. I don't care about short-term band-aid fixes because that's not reality. You still gotta live your life. You can't patch up things here and there and expect you to have this idea of health, right? You're gonna have an idea of health that if you feel good at the same moment, you'll be fine. But the reality is you want to feel just as good as you do now, 10, 20 years ago, to now being years later, right? And some people are lucky. Some people, they've always eaten a healthy diet their whole life, and some people, they just happen to fall into landmines and, get blown up all the time. But point being, I'm here to help you on a way forward to guide you. So why people need to get vitamins and minerals to detox for proper liver detox and increase insoluble fiber so they could begin to feel better by eliminating toxins. These toxins are going to be heavy metals, they're going to be plastics, they're going to be molds, they're going to be chemicals, all sorts of things that you have what's called bile acids, bile salts, however you want to term it. Your body needs to get rid of this bile salts. 95% of it gets recirculated into the body, recycled. And just to not make a story too long, but you gotta get rid of it. But your body thinks recycling it is going to help it reduce resources. But we do live in a first world country. You can eat more stuff, you'll be fine. This is for days when we were, caveman, I guess you could say, right? So we don't really have a need to conserve as much bile anymore. We could gleefully get rid of it and replenish it to help us detox. And fiber will help us with that. So the problem with eating less food means you're consuming fewer minerals, vitamins, and amino acids. You need to have proper bowel production to keep going. You need to have digestion going, so whatever you eat will assimilate. You break down your fats into fatty acids, you break down your proteins into amino acids, you break down some carbohydrates into glucoses, and so on, right? So your body can have the raw resources it needs to do what it has to do to function, right? And rebuild itself. The issue with excessive fasting is people will end up eating less, which means less nutrients. Less nutrients means you're not going to have better digestion and your metabolic function will go down. Meals become harder to tolerate, right? You can't just eat nothing. You got to start doing the work, doing the detox so you can eat more food and more variety. The person feels better when fasting. That means there's an issue with bile acids. And they continue eating less and less, which means everything as a whole gets worse. Because you can't get by on nothing. Even if you supplement it, you still got to eat actual food for your macronutrients. Over time, this pattern may contribute to fatigue, constipation, poor recovery, muscle loss, hormonal imbalances, nutrient deficiencies, and a slower metabolism. It's a catch-22, but I'm going to help you get past this. I'm going to help you improve. Now, improvement is a bit slow, but eventually you'll get to the point where you feel better. The first thing I tell people, right, is you should clean up your diet. This is kind of problematic, and it's a very blanket term. Because that can mean anything, right? Let's be honest. I tell people, eat a healthy diet, right? And they're like, well, I am. And then ask them questions, and I completely disagree with whatever they're eating. Because it's a really big umbrella term, healthy. People think spinach is healthy. I think it's garbage. People think kale is healthy. I think it's garbage. People think beef liver and beef kidneys is healthy. I think it's garbage. Any superfood you mention, right, that's marketed, right, I think it's garbage. And people think some of these things are healthy, and I think they're not healthy for a variety of reasons, which I have to say will lead to toxicity. So I want to clean up some myths, right? Some people that come to me for nutrition consulting, they're under some idea that fasting is a miraculous practice that can solve all of their health problems. Now the thing is, fasting can be a really good tool if you use it well, wisely, and properly, right? Just like anything, everything's a good tool. But you can always use a tool for the wrong thing. You want to be taught how to use a tool for the right thing so you get the most out of it. So, like I say, right, fasting is a good tool because you could go through autophagy and mitophagy. You end up replacing older, less efficient cells. These are called senescent cells. You can think of cells operating at half or 20% capacity. They're kind of lazy, you know, they're just along for the ride. You don't want lazy cells, zombie cells, some people call them. You want cells that are going to operate at your full potential and capacity, right? You don't want dead weight. And that's what fasting helps you with. But again, right, you need quality, nutrient-dense diet to properly repair the body. This is why I don't agree with people that do 1, 2, 3 alternate day fasting like every week or every month. That's crazy. They then start to look like vegan vegetarians with like no muscle, and they look terrible, and it's worse than Ozempic. Face, body, all that kind of stuff. Because again, you need to eat nutrients to maintain your body. So, another myth is people can eat whatever they want. I know I talked about this, as long as they're fasting. The issue is you can't outfast a diet that's high in inflammatory foods, seed oils, and sugars. In the same way, you can't out-exercise, a bad diet. This is why when you watch the show The Fattest Losers, right, they never lost weight or even were able to maintain weight loss because they had a shitty diet. You also need to eat well and properly and have the nutrients you need, and I'll link down to that. But point being, right, is you want to have your house, your body, right, metaphorically built of like bricks and cement to be strong and healthy. You don't want it to be like Three Little Pigs, right, where you have inferior sticks and paper and the big bad wolf is going to blow it down in one huff and puff, right? You want something strong and resilient, and this is why it becomes essential to change your diet from a standard American diet, because you're not going to get the nurturing vitamins and minerals that your body so desperately needs. The quality of your diet determines the building blocks for how strong and healthy your cells become, especially when it comes to fasting and overall maintenance. If you're completely new to becoming healthy, read this book first, right? If you don't know where to start, I would encourage you to click the link here and to read my book. That way you kind of cut your teeth a little bit, and you know a lot about many little things that will help you improve your health. Second, if you want to know what foods you should eat, I have a full list of foods I improve for my clients, they're the lowest toxic foods you can think of. Now, again, not everyone can do a carnivore diet, right? I think carnivore is great, but it could be very lacking, especially if you have this problem. But this is why I have a very holistically minded diet that's very low toxic, so your body can actually begin to eat things again. Because the surest way to die is to not eat. You can't starve to death. You gotta eat something, you gotta put something in your body. We put some stuff in your body that's as good as possible. You can then detox it, put some fiber, and actually over time, it does take time, right? Like this isn't an overnight fix. But eventually as your body will detox, you will get healthier, you will feel better, you have less of these issues that are impacting you. So this is an example of what happens to a senescent cell. Your immune system activates to get rid of it, take it out, and then your body will replace it with a newer, healthier, better cell. Now, there's different types of fasting, right? I don't want to shit on intermittent fasting because that's generally one I recommend. That's good for most people. It helps them with digestion, it helps them do better sleep. And the one point I want to make clear about this kind of fasting, right, is you're not supposed to undereat, right? Basically, you're just cramming all of your nutrients, your calories for the day, into these two big meals. So the sweet spot is technically a 16-8 fasting. You eat all your food within an 8-hour window, giving your body a total of 16 hours without eating in a day. Now, 8 of those, more or less, is going to be you sleeping, so that's pretty cool. Some people skip breakfast entirely or just have a single cup of straight black coffee. They eat a big lunch and eat an early big dinner to achieve this. I generally recommend this type of fasting as people sleep much better at night since their food is already digested, so they're ready to sleep. However, I only recommend this if you eat enough animal-based protein in your meals and plenty of fats to keep you sustained by triggering GLP-1, CCK, and leptin. Click here to see a list of nourishing low-toxic foods you should be eating. Now, I don't generally recommend fasting for people that do not want to change their diet. If you're in a standard American diet, a seafood diet, all you can eat kind of diet, right? I don't recommend fasting. The reason I say this is because you're not triggering, GLP-1, CCK, leptin by eating good quality, healthy, saturated fats and proteins. So what happens is people, I don't know why, people have been doing this shit forever. They try and copy a bodybuilder diet. Now, bodybuilders only do that diet when they're trying to get ready for competition. And any bodybuilder worth his knowledge and weight knows you should not do this diet at all. It's only for competition. It's only get ready, right? I'm sure, dry chicken breast and broccoli sounds familiar, or with rice. Yeah, don't do that. That's not nutrient dense in the way you would like it to be. It's not going to be very sustaining the way you want it to be. You're eventually going to crack and cheat on your diet because it's not a good diet. Any diet you want to cheat on is a bad diet because your body's craving something it needs. And that's something people often don't understand, right? They think they're being weak-willed. But if I was trying to not drink water, right, because it's bad for you, I would break at some point and drink water because you need water, right? People cheat for a reason. We just don't know why. And I know I have somewhere in my Patreon an article describing why people cheat on their diet for good reasons and what to replace it with. But yeah, I mean, a keto, carnivore, low-carb diet goes pretty well hand in hand with a 16-8 intermittent fasting. Then you have OMAD, 1 meal a day fasting. Basically, you're fasting for 23 hours, and you eat for 1 hour, and in that 1 hour, you eat 3 meals in that 1 hour, or as many calories as you can, to keep you sustained. That means people eat all their food for the day in 1 hour or less. It's fine on a few occasions, right, if you're pressed on time or whatever, but I do not recommend this. That's because for the majority of people, it's very detrimental. Now, there are very few people that could pull off an OMAD diet, and they're doing really good with it, and they're happy. But that's good. But the issue I see is people undereat, and they think they're doing good, and they basically end up lowering their metabolism to a very slow, sluggish point. And that's because people on OMAD, you can't really do 3 meals in one day. It's crazy. It's a lot of food to eat, in just one sitting. Like you're not Kobayashi, right? You're not going to eat like 60 hot dogs or, something like that, right? Like people, what's called hormones. Like I talked about, leptin, CCK, GLP-1, eat enough food, it gets triggered. especially if you're eating enough fat, you're lower carb, plenty of protein, you're going to struggle, right? Because it's going to be just too much food, right? And your body knows you don't need that much at that point. But what happens is people undereat by 500 to 800 calories, more or less, typically. They feel satiated, and eventually it just creeps up on them. They have to adjust their body to a slower metabolism. They feel colder and shaky. People lose a lot of weight and become skinny, but like not a good kind of skinny, like you need help kind of skinny, if you know what I mean. They're under the BMI by a lot because people are eating less. Muscle's harder to put on, and they can't really maintain it. They're not getting as much nutrients as the body requires, and it kind of reminds me of a sort of hypothyroidism caused by not eating enough. And you want to learn more about hypothyroidism, you could click this link here, and you can go to the article there. Now again, there's overnight fasting, which is, I mean, who doesn't do that, right? You fall asleep, it's overnight fasting. 16-8, that's typical. Alternate day fasting, I don't really agree with that, because why? 5-2 diet, that means you usually do intermittent fasting for 5 days, and then you don't have that on the weekends. Spontaneous meal skipping, I don't know what the hell that means, but I don't recommend it. 24 fasting, that's kind of like OMAD, except you have a 4-hour window. I mean, some people like it, some people don't, but again, right, similar to OMAD, if you can't fit in all your calories, all your nutrients, all your meals for that day, then you shouldn't do it. You should eat a normal sort of schedule. OMAD, I don't recommend it. Then you have the 24-hour fasting and the 36-hour fasting, and I recommend it maybe 36-hour, right? Once, twice a year. I mean, that's fine, no big deal. But if you're the person that's really sick, right, and you need to do it weekly, monthly, you have an issue you haven't resolved yet, and I'll tell you what it is, and that's, you have bile acids and you have toxins stuck in your fat soluble, and what happens is when you eat food, you secrete bile. When you secrete bile, it's everything your body has detoxed from phase 1, phase 2 detox. As it goes through your body, right, you start to feel terrible, right? In some cases, if you have intrahepatic cholestasis, you might have these bile acids leak into your blood vessels and you feel terrible, which is why some people have these symptoms. For some people, they could get backed up, kind of like GERD, and then you get acid reflux, which is an alkaline kind of acid reflux. 1 3-day water fasting. This is where you get the most out of autophagy and mitophagy to have better mitochondria, better efficient cells, and essentially you degrade these older cells, their damaged proteins, their organelles are damaged, you have debris the body wants to clear out. And this mechanism gets rid of it, which is pretty neat. So you generate more energy, you repair cells, and you maintain overall health as a survival mechanism. Because when you're in the state of, I'm not going to call it starvation, right? Because we live in a modern day first world country and you can eat as much as you want. You have access to food. It's not something that's being kept from you, right? So essentially, it's like a reset for your body. You're cleaning up spam, old files, cookies, and crap from your computer you don't want. That's essentially how I view it. But you don't want to do it all the time. Just seldomly. The interesting part of a longer fast is your body will produce more stem cells to heal your body. It also taps into your body fat reserves for energy through lipolysis and makes ketones. It also serves negative bacteria and fungus in your gut to reset it, which could be helpful for the people that, have candida, right? You can starve the fungus. If you have bad bacteria, right, you can starve it. But I would rather you just do kefir or sauerkraut or miso or some kind of probiotic added to your diet to help with that, right? You don't really need to starve it because then you starve even the good bacteria, right? I only recommend this type of fasting if you change your diet from the standard American diet into something healthier. If you click that link, list of foods I have there, it'll be more nourishing for you. You feel better, you notice your body has adapted well. Once achieved, you can try water fasting once or twice a year for maintenance. You do not need to do this monthly or often. These are the benefits of it. It maxes out around 3 days, 72 hours. So you have a 1-2 day dry fast. That's the same thing, but you don't do any water. Now again, only 1, 2 days because right, if you're starving out of everything, the first thing you die of is not water, right? So you don't want to prolong not having water, right? It's not good. In my opinion, well, from what I hear, some people prefer it better over a 3-day fast, a water fast, and that's because I think, in my opinion, right? I think it works by activating your body through lipolysis to use up fat cells to make more interstitial metabolic water to sustain your body. That might be what confers the possible benefits, but I'm not sure on that. There's not too much research on a dry fast, and some people say one dry fast day is equivalent to 2 or 3 days of water fasting. I don't know. I don't see any good research to indicate that's the case. That's just what some people feel like. So I don't know. Well, but again, right? If people like it, do it. If you don't like it, then don't do it. You could do a water day fast. But again, right? Seldomly, once or twice a year. And there's a whole debacle on deuterium, which I'm not going to talk about it because there's other people talking about it. Like what's that guy name? Dr. Jack Cruz. He's all about that deuterium stuff. So I would refer you to him if you're interested about this stuff. But I don't agree with him on a lot of things. But I think he's right about the deuterium thing. Now the problem, as I see it, there's a very subset of sick people. The ones I'm talking about. They don't want to eat food anymore, as food stimulates them to feel bad. They're always fasting quite often, maybe doing OMAD, right, if they're able to eat more food. And they have low energy, allergies that get sparked up, autoimmune triggers, headaches, intracranial head pressure, right? Feeling weak, stomach aches and pains, acne, dermatitis, eczema, nausea, gas and bloating, swollen lymph nodes. Now, I'll argue these people are similar to clients I see that have been damaged by Accutane, heavy metals, mold, and Lyme. And that's because they're unable to properly run phase 1, phase 2 liver detox. You're probably like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? That's all he talks about, liver phase 1, phase 2 detox. That's all he says. Once you figure it out and you read through this article, this video, and then you click my other one, and you go through it, it'll all make sense. Because you gotta keep your body detoxing. And when you impede your body from detoxing, it all kind of stays entrapped and recirculating in your body. So that's why you perpetually feel like shit. You should feel better. This is why when you poop, you feel better. This is why when you pee, you feel better. This is because it's stuff that needs to be detoxed coming out of your body. That's how it works. So, people, right? You need fiber, and you need to bind them to toxic bile salts. Because if not, you're just gonna, again, right, perpetually recirculate all that crap in your body that needs to be detoxed, but doesn't get out. Fiber is the key to unlock it to get rid more of that bile acids. This is why when people are fasting, they don't not eat any food, which does not stimulate the production of bile. Bile contains all the nasty stuff your body wants to be detoxed. Phase 1, phase 2 detox. So the body doesn't deal with it for a bit when you don't eat. But when you eat, you gotta, work on that. So you move away from excessive fasting back into nourishing your body. The path forward. Fiber plays an important role. Soluble and insoluble fiber helps to support regular bowel movements and aid in the removal of bile through the digestive tract. If bowel movements are infrequent, then, you get that issue where you don't feel well, right? This is why people, when they're constipated, they don't feel well. If anything, they might feel kind of bad when they're going through diarrhea, but at least with diarrhea, they're getting rid of many things. Which, if people have burning diarrhea, that's bile acids. Likewise, if the body relies on nutrients like protein, magnesium, zinc, selenium, B vitamins, and other cofactors to support normal detox, then your pathways and metabolic processes will work even better. The goal isn't to fast more and eat less forever, because you'll turn decrepit like some kind of a ghoul from Fallout, right? The point is you want to gradually improve digestive function, nutrient status, poop regularly, be hydrated, and have overall better metabolic health so you can comfortably eat more food, feel less terrible, and live your life and get it back again. Non-processed whole foods are the source of nourishment, energy, and recovery. Good quality food is something that should not make you feel bad. But I will say, not all foods are equal. Like, not at all. Some foods are more toxic than others. Some foods are, like I said, right, the superfoods, they all fucking suck. There isn't a good superfood I would ever recommend to someone. If I had to pick a superfood, It's got to be just all muscle meat, beef, bison, or lamb. And then we build around that. Because again, right, you want the least toxic things in your body. If you feel good when you're not eating, it'd be worth asking whether the problem is the food itself or whether your body needs more support to properly digest, utilize, and eliminate what you ate. Because everything you put in your body, it's got to go through the liver. It's the bodyguard. It has to detox everything. And it has to happen. That's why when some people are eating food, right, and they feel terrible, right, they don't have the nutrients they need, like the zinc, right, like the selenium, like the molybdenum, like the plentiful of proteins that they need, and the fiber to help them detox. The solution is not less food. The solution is improving the body's ability to handle more of the right food. The majority of people I've helped have not had a real detox. They've all been to, like I said, big name doctors that claim to be like the shit at what they do, right? Like they're the greatest. But they're not. Specialists that are, specialized in that one body part, and they've been through all sorts of specialists, but they don't really help because if you're so myopically focused on one body system, you're neglecting the body as a system of systems, and then you're just retarded. No offense. It's like looking at a single leaf of a tree, but then you zoom out, there's branches, and there's more leaves. Then you zoom out, there's a whole tree. You zoom out even more, then there's a whole forest of trees, right? So you can't be that myopic when looking at someone. Then you have some social media chiropractors and health coaches, right? They talk a big game that they'll magically help you, that you do their 3-month program, you pay them $5,000, or, they somehow jip you into doing a $10,000 program with all these supplements and all this bullshit and testing. Yeah, they don't get better. Now, some people, they have like really easy, like, what's that term? It's like low-hanging fruit, right? Some people are low-hanging fruit, right? They're easy to fix. But people with like actual problems, actual toxicity, people that get thrown to the fucking side because they don't know what they're doing, and they pay them big bucks, and they still don't get better. No offense, but fuck them. If you paid someone and they're not going to help you, right, you should get a refund. You should get back all your $10,000 or whatever you spent on these people, right? Because people will feel a little bit better, but then boom, they go back to the beginning of feeling like shit. Because they never addressed the root cause. And that's the reality. If you don't do the right work, right, and people are just flooding you with all these supplements, right? The issue I see is your body never had an herb deficiency. Your body has a vitamin deficiency, a mineral deficiency, amino acid deficiency, a fatty acid deficiency. And this is what we work on. This is why we get your diet. We fix your diet first. Once you fix your diet, then we look into supplements, which you may or may not need, right? And then we go from there. Because it's simple, that's all it is. But people want to charge you $1,000, $2,000 on supplements and bullshit and all sorts of testing to diagnose you. But then they can't even help you with the diagnosis because it's like, what the hell? Now, there are very few people that are good at what they do and they charge prices like that. And it's like, fine, whatever, right? But I feel like a scumbag piece of shit if I charge a high price like that. That's not me. So point being, people pay $149 for like a single visit, and then boom, they're better than ever. They spent all of that money I wish I would have had that I don't charge, right? It's just crazy how fucking corrupt the world is. But, again, I charge way less than these grifters. I want people to get better. I don't believe in turning away sick people, which is real fucked up, right? Imagine someone's in a burning house, and you don't save them because they didn't pay you. That's what it feels like, right? Like like I got a gift to help people, and to not use it is, in my opinion, a slap God across the face. Even people who don't have the money, right? I still work with them because why should I hide this from you? Why should I keep something like this from you, right? It's just, I'm kind of sick of the way the world's going, and I want to be the positive difference people can see. And again, right, why would I turn away someone? It's inhumane to ignore someone in the plight of suffering, right? If you can make a positive difference in the world by helping someone, why wouldn't you, right? So again, right, you get your cells, get your organs and tissues, lymphatic system, liver and bile ducts and colon. People will talk about a drainage funnel. but you gotta support yourself nutrient-wise to get to that point, and it all unravels from there. So, just because I don't want to do another hour-long video, I've already have a video on this, please, right? You click the link here, you go to my Patreon, or you go to my YouTube, and you can watch the No Fat Full Body Liver Detox Guide, in which I talk about all of this in depth. You'll understand it, it'll make sense to you, and then you'll realize your next steps to go forward, right? So, watch my video, read the guide, and for the most part it's free. There might be some articles in there you gotta pay for, but again, right, my Patreon is only $5 a month, which is incredibly cheap. Some people charge like $49 a month for like ChatGPT information, which is lame. So again, right, I've been able to help people take back their health, better, happier quality of life, because that's the point of why you're doing this. You want to live better. So click here to read the guide. Suggest, again, right, subscribe to my Patreon. It's only $5 a month, and you get access to all the guides I've ever written, right? I don't take any away. You can read them all. If you need help, talk to me, right? Message me, comment, DM, text me, whatever, right? I'll make an appointment with you. We'll do a strategy call, Only $40. Just because I want to see what's wrong with you, what you're dealing with, and how can I help you, right? And then from there, we could go on to an actual full nutrition consulting, a full appointment. I tell you what to eat, what you should do, what to avoid. Ask you a bunch of... So the first I'm asking you about a bunch of previous things in your life. So it helps you assess what you've been through, what you've done, what you haven't done, so it can help you go forward through here. But again, right, if you want to do it yourself, then just, click the link, click the article, and do your best, right? There will be landmines along the way because, again, right, the whole thing's a maze, and, you're busy working your job. You're busy being a mother, being a father, being a professional, whatever it is, right? You want to have your hobbies, right? If you don't want to do it all alone, then, just contact me and I'll help you, right? Because that's what I do. That's why I'm a nutritional therapy practitioner. This is why people love me. This is why when I'm done with my clients, they never see me again because they're fine. They're doing good. And I check up on them and they're happy, they're doing well, and it's like, all right, good, move on. So yeah, all I want to do is just redirect you to my video here, right? To click that link. So you can finally stop fasting too much. You can start eating food that will make you feel worse. That's the big one. People eat food full of things that can make them feel worse, right? Whether it's high in copper and nickel, whether it's high in vitamin A, whether it's high in plant defense chemical compounds, whether it's high in glyphosate, whatever it is, right? We want to eat foods that are the least full of crap, so you don't feel like crap. You eat a very clean diet. So the cleaner your diet is, the more your body can get rid of, right? You want to stop intoxing to start detoxing, right? Kind of how if you have a leaky pipe, you don't want to keep doing a bucket. You want to fix the broken pipe so it stops leaking and you get better. You want to get the right vitamins and minerals in your diet, in your health, supplements if need be, so your body can start to do the detox, right? That's the whole point of liver detox. That's where all the magic happens. Then between 2 and 3, right, you get the bile acids. Goes through the poop cruise, right? Goes through your intestines. Goes in your colon. Poop it out. Make sure you have that fiber, so as it goes down the poop chute, right, it grabs onto as much bile as possible to eliminate those toxins. That way it doesn't recirculate in your body where you feel perpetually worse. And want to make sure you keep hydrated. You drink at least 80 ounces of water throughout the day so you can feel better. And yeah, if you have any questions, please like, subscribe, and yeah, let me help you, Because again, God bless you guys. I want you to get better. I want you to feel healthier. If you're young, let's do it now. If you're old, it's never too late. You can still live a happy, vibrant life. It's Gabe the Nutritionist. I appreciate everyone for your support, and have a great day and a great week.